Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this HCTalk podcast. As always, I'm your host, Lance Gormley, and our guest on the program today is Captain Huntley, the second Captain Huntley to come out on the program with the Harvey County Sheriff's Department. How you doing today, Captain Huntley?
I am doing fine. How's everybody else?
Yeah, right. It sounds awesome. You went and got the briefing today. You're a captain. I'm assuming you probably went into work and made sure everybody was doing what they needed to be doing.
Well, briefly, but it wasn't a good start. I found a pack rat had placed a home underneath the hood of my car, so I had to deal with that the first thing this morning.
Resourceful little boogers, are they not?
They took all the tomatoes from the garden and collected them up there. I think that probably says something that's going to be a rough winter.
Oh yeah, that might be. We might be in for it for a while. Like it did a cold snap and it just stay cold forever over the wintertime.
I'd be fine with that too.
Yeah. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it is wintertime. I tell everybody, when we're having this, I think, unseasonably warm fall, we're having that you just take the days for the good that you can get that are warmer, and then this will all be over soon, and we'll be dead in the winter here before long.
It is. Take it a day at a time.
Okay, we'll start talking about pack rats, because you struck a nerve with me, right? I have dealt with pack rats before. They can just tear some stuff up. So being under the hood of your car and knowing that it's there and getting it done early and out of the way is a good thing. But I had a pack rat one time that basically took a half a bag of dog food in my garage. Didn't even realize it, so it had been there for a while, and stuffed it behind this cabinet. And then eventually I just moved the cabinet to clean a little bit, and a half a bag of dog food just came out. I was like, what the heck is going on here? So they're resourceful. They're not afraid of people.
No, but I don't like them. I'm waging war.
They're big rats.
Yeah, I'm going to take care of this thing.
Love it. Yeah, call animal control, folks, if you ever have a pack rat issue here. Unless you're on a farm, and then handle it the farmer way.
Yeah, I'm going to handle it the farmer way.
I love it. Okay, so you've seen these podcasts before. We were talking about on the program that I do appreciate you watching them and really just supporting us. And like I said, we did have your brother out here on the program before. Everybody knows that HCTalk really appreciates law enforcement, everything they do. And we like to put a face, a name, a life to behind the badge. So Captain Huntley said, sure, as soon as I asked if he'd come out here, bravery at its best.
I don't know if that was the case, but
love it. But anywho, okay, so as we start all these programs, it's just where you hail from, where'd you grow up, what kind of things did you like to do in school? Just kind of give me, or the audience, just who was Captain Huntley as a kid?
Oh my gosh. Well, I am a Newton kid through and through. I was born and raised here. Lived here my entire life. Going through school, I used to be an athlete quite a bit in my middle school years. I used to play traveling baseball, things like that. But I didn't like the grind of that. And I ended up getting real big into hunting and fishing at the time. Good. And that consumed my life for probably the next 20 to 25 years. Like, that's what I did. Spent a lot of time in the outdoors. Goes back to the pack rat thing. Like, I'm going to take care of this thing myself. I've got those skills.
On a pack rat.
Right.
Are they in season?
Yeah.
They're always in season.
It don't matter. I'm going to tell you that right now. Varmints are varmints. But, right. I come from a family of railroaders. And so growing up with the Santa Fe, like my father worked for the Santa Fe, growing up with that, it used to be such a family-oriented company. And I grew up with that. They used to have Santa Fe picnics, every year. And it was just, and so I was dead set on being a railroader. So when I graduated high school, it was a matter of biding my time for 3 years to become 21 so I could get a CDL and go to work for the railroad. It was almost a sure thing for me. Yeah. And so I can remember the day, my parents, they told me, you got to go get a job. I'm graduated high school, kind of took some of the summer off. I did harvest work, and then I just was hanging out, and forced me to go get a job. So I hired on at Walmart as a night stalker. And so I did that for about 2 years of that 3-year wait, and that's where I lost my way. I ended up going into loss prevention work with Walmart, and I remember I got into my first foot chase of a shoplifter running from me, and after that apprehension, I got to really think about a career doing this. I mean, 20 years of age and you're chasing somebody, it was just exciting to me.
Yeah.
And so I had an uncle who was a deputy here for, I think close to 20 years. So there was some affiliation with law enforcement in this community, and I remember thinking about leaving Walmart, and my managers at the time, I had great relationships with them, and I worked all over South Central Kansas with Walmart doing LP work, and they wanted me to stick around and like go into the district manager stuff, and whether that was a sales position or was loss prevention and district managing. And I told you I had good managers, and they would tell me, like, man, you're working like 60 hours a week for $35,000, and that was not appealing to me. And so I hired on at the jail with at the time was Captain Vern Schmidt, and hired on there with the intent of going to the road somewhere, whether it was Harvey County or Newton. And so after working about a year and a half with the detention center, I hired on with Newton PD in 2001, and the rest is history. 25 years later, here I sit. So
2001. Okay, so question. One thing I like to dig into is, law enforcement is a very niche occupation, right? It's not for everybody. In fact, I'm sure there's people that have signed up before and then got into it and just realized, man, this is not what I thought it was, or whatever the case may be. But you had mentioned that your transition from high school, which you thought was going to be one occupation, one direction, and then you decided, because of the loss prevention, that maybe the loss prevention it'd be the direction I'd go. And then so at what point in time when you made that curve, or you made that decision, what was going on in your mind at that point where you're like, were you just like, well, I'm gonna go work at the jail? Or were you like, at some point you just thought, I think what I want to do is be in law enforcement, so I'm gonna take that step forward? Yeah,
I can tell you, it goes back to that foot chase, right? Just the adrenaline and the excitement of that moment for me, for a lack of better words, the high I got doing that, and felt like I was doing something good, and it hooked me. Like, no bones about it. That's what it was. That moment, like, man, this is too much fun. How can I do this in like a real official capacity? And as a 20-year-old, at least that's what I thought, with my upbringing, rough and tumble, that's the way we were raised. And man, I was hooked at that point. And so the jail was a stepping stone for me. You got to be 21 to be a full-time cop somewhere. So the jail was a way for me to get my foot in the door. And that's all that was. And then as soon as I got an opportunity, I went across the hall, or I should say from the jail over to Newton PD.
So, okay, when applying for Newton PD, and I know this from a lot of officers that are your age, right? There used to be, and I say this on about every program, there used to be, when you were going to seek out a job in law enforcement, you might have 50 applicants for one position, right? So you actually got on with Newton PD at that point in time.
Yeah, there was over 50 applicants for one position when I applied for Newton PD. Yeah, that's the way it was. That was 2001. And there was over 50 applicants for one position.
And today we'll be lucky to get a few, right? Maybe that curve's changing, but
it's a struggle. And it's a combination of factors. This is you said it best, I think, that it's not for everybody. It changes you as a person, and you can look at it in a positive sense, or you can look at it in a negative sense. But I have felt that this career has always done more for me than I've probably realized, at least when I was younger. Just being intuitive to things, and you're just really aware of your surroundings. And some people think that being hyper vigilant all the time is bad. Man, I like it because I can use those tools for other things and be very successful too. Just being that detailed about things.
Sharpens you as a person. Yeah. Okay. So first day on the job, or back to the very beginning, right? There's definitely got to be a learning curve. Even going from law enforcement in a detention center to then being a law enforcement officer on patrol, you just started out as a patrol officer. So you went through the whole rigmarole. You started. You probably had to go to CLETC, I think they call it. Then from there, you got that training. You're out there. You're doing ride-alongs with somebody that's training you. Was two-part question. One, looking back, was there ever a time where you were like, man, this is not what I thought this was going to be, or a challenging point in the beginning, or and the other question would be, when did you experience something, and what was that you were like, yeah, this is for me?
Well, I can tell you my first day at Newton PD was I remember to this day. I walk into the squad room and there's the sergeant and there's the corporal and we had to shuttle a vehicle to the city shops for something. And I bring this up, I've brought him up to it before, he doesn't remember it, but I sat in the car with him and I said, hey, do you remember your first day? And he says, while drinking his coffee, like, not really. It's like, well, were you scared? No. It's like, well, I'm scared as right now. And
like, so anything can happen right now. Yeah.
So we go get this car, and I come back, and by the time he got back to the station first, and by the time I got back there, it was everybody knew about that conversation. So learning that everything's fair game is one of the biggest things I learned right off the bat. In terms of understanding,
scared, huh? Yeah. Hey, it's Scary Cat.
Man, well, when you come in on your first day and you got like a 17-year vet, and then it's like, man, what am I doing here? I'm this young punk kid trying,
Yeah.
Anyhow, I didn't probably fully understand how lengthy the training process is, but that didn't affect me. I spent maybe a week or two there at Newton PD before I was shipped off to the Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center. And back then, and it's crazy because I'm one of those old guys now, it's 25 years. It was only a 9-week course back then. And I went in January. I remember that. And it was cold, just cold all the time. And so finished that, and I come back and I start FTO. And that process with Newton at the time was like 3.5 months. So I think I was released the last week of June or first week of July, if I remember right. And then it was just Katie barred the door from there. Yeah. I was active. I was an active officer, and there was never a moment in time. I mean, there's been some tough times in this career, definitely, but there was never a time where I questioned if I should be doing this any longer. I'm not a quitter. I learned that from my dad. I will not quit something. So
you figure out a way to get through it, whatever that is.
You be resilient, and what you don't realize, especially when you're younger, is it's just constantly sharpening that sword, man. It's just constantly doing that, and it's building a toughness within you that I think if people could learn to do that, I think that we'd have a better world in itself. But
yeah, I agree. Okay, so two-part question about law enforcement. So no, I'll go here. So you started with NPD as a patrol officer. Mm-hmm. Did you then at that point in time do different jobs? I mean, how long were you with Newton PD, and what did that career look like as far as did you move up the ranks? Did you do different jobs in there? I know sometimes there's like, different classifications, like a detective, or maybe even like, I think they obviously used to call it a drug task force officer, but now they don't call it that anymore. They call it crime interdiction, right?
Criminal interdiction.
Okay, so what did the career at Newton PD look like?
So I spent 6 years with Newton, and I'm thankful for every one of them. And here's what Newton did for me that takes a little longer with the sheriff's office is just that experience. On a Friday, Saturday night, I would go to 3 to 4 domestics in Newton each night, sometimes more than that. So in the county, that's, maybe 2 to 3 times a week you get those, right? So 6 years there, I was just able to develop and gain a lot of experience that would take longer if I was at the sheriff's office. And I got into this profession when I was 21. Yeah. There was a lot of maturing from 21 to probably 30 that I needed to do. I didn't do any advancement at Newton other than the only thing, which was a goal of mine when I started there, was to FTO people and make it on the emergency response team, which I accomplished when I was with Newton.
Okay. So the emergency response team, that is, and I don't think I've asked anybody this at this point, but that is a combination of all different law enforcement agencies across Harvey County, or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's open to everybody, every law enforcement agency within Harvey County. It's comprised mainly of Newton PD and the sheriff's office. Heston Police Department has some people on it now, which is great. I know the guys really like that partnership, and so I think that's the majority of what it's comprised of now.
Okay, and then so looking back, NPD, and I like to hear about personal experiences and situations, right? So during your course at NPD, what was one event that you can look back to still to this day where it was, you had said that you're never hesitated, right? You never had necessarily an experience where you said, this isn't for me. So what is one experience or two experiences that you had that was just a reconfirmation that you're in the right spot doing what you're called to do?
So one of the greatest things I think about being a cop, or any first responder for that matter, is when you get the opportunity to truly impact somebody's life, and whether that's legitimately saving and preserving life, or influencing or guiding people to make better decisions that inevitably save their lives. With Newton, I remember catching a baby 25 feet up at the Cherry Hill Apartments or the Slate Creek Apartments. And that's a point in time where it reaffirmed.
So was there a fire or something?
Yeah, there was a fire. They were trapped. They were on the second floor. By happenstance, I was moving along the ground floor, and the window opened up and smoke started coming out of the window. I saw the stairwell. It was completely engulfed. The father that was in there with his 2 kids had no way out other than holding his baby out the window and dropping it and trusting that we could catch her. And so, that was, I don't remember what year that was, 2007. And so we caught both kids, and then the father took the leap of faith and jumped out, but they all survived.
Wow. I can't imagine being in that situation, knowing that your heart's racing, this is not a good situation. This person is going to have a difficult time getting out. It's the kind of smoke you're talking about. I mean, that you don't have to die in a fire because of the fire. You can die in a fire because of the smoke.
Oh yeah, trust me.
And the moment that you see this little teeny tiny child,
6-month-old baby is what it was.
Baby, just a baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lucky that's where the athletic side of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you play football? I mean, we're making a joke out of it, but
but that's where it came into play, man. And it was a smooth landing. You kind of brace that and let it give, just like you were trying to catch a baseball barehanded. So, but yeah, she was uninjured. There was a 3-year-old that was uninjured. Now the father, he was a little heavier to try to catch, but I think he sustained some injuries, but he lived.
Yeah,
so
he broke his fall.
Yeah,
that's the best you could ask for. Hey man, let me land on you down there. That's okay. So that's just an experience that right now is I'm processing that. Right, like I'm just putting myself in that situation and just thinking about the intensity of that situation, and then that it came out to be one that was. Of course, there's loss of property, right? But no loss of life. And then I think at that point in time, we realize how precious life is. Yeah. So great experience. Thank you for sharing that with me. Another one. So from there, I don't know, I guess I'm going to ask you this, right? Because I ask challenges and stuff, not to put you on the spot here. But because you can recall that memory, was there a time where something that you'd like to share didn't turn out the way that you thought it was going to turn out?
So I think before that one, I was talking about catching the babies from the second story apartment. I remember this thing really impacted me, and it was hard for me to process. The Spencer house fire. I don't know if you remember that. Spencer on Broadway. Do you remember that old house next to Best Cleaners? Spencer's, like gifts and trinkets or whatever.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
I was at the office, and I caught the kid with Newton PD, and this was before this one. But a structure fire comes out there, and I was just leaving the station when that happened, so I'm like 2 blocks away. I get there quick, before the fire department, before anybody, and I can see flame and smoke pouring out of the back of it. And so I go up to the front door, and I can hear a guy inside just pleading for somebody to help him. And so it took me, it was a stout door on that house, but it took me, I don't know, 5 or 6 kicks, hard ones, to get that door open. And I ended up really tearing up my foot. Like, it was black and blue from just beating on that door. But as soon as that door cracked open, it was floor to ceiling, just black smoke. And I tried 3 different times to low crawl and reach this guy as he's pleading for his life, and it just, I couldn't do it. I could get 10 to 15 feet in, and then I was just overcome. And the last time I tried, the door ended up getting close, so it was like I had to crawl back to just find the door and get out. And then as soon as I got out, me and another officer just collapsed on the lawn because we had just ingested so much smoke. But that one really affected me. It took the fire department 5-6 minutes, just full battle gear, to get in there and locate him and get him out. So that was tough when you put such a pressure on yourself to be successful, and you can make an impact, and you're just unable to do it. I struggled with that one mentally for a little bit, but I also understood that there's just sometimes you can do everything you can, and it's not going to work out. So that was one of them. And the other thing that I would tell you that was 2 other things that still I remember to this day is April 9, 2005, when Kurt Ford was fatally shot. And of course the active shooter, Harvey County active shooter incident that happened in 2016. And there are many others, but those are the 3 things that probably stick out to this day.
Just things that you've had to be in law enforcement and experience those kind of things. I think that's outside the box for a lot of people. If you're not in that position where you're trying to help someone or save a life, that's not everybody's job, right? And then, so you sign up to do that, you go put yourself in that situation. The ultimate hope is that you'd be able to do that. And then when that doesn't happen and it doesn't work out, especially when there's a loss of life or there's a loss of a fellow, law enforcement officer, or even when you're talking about, I'm assuming you're talking about the XL shooting, just to see what some people are capable of doing to their fellow human being, and you just walk away with putting your hands up in the air and going,
that's you learn that relatively quickly.
Yeah.
Like the human species is capable of so much, and it can be scary, I would say. So that's not what's shocking, but I tell a lot of young officers is that understand that our currency that we deal with for ourselves all the time is trauma.
Yeah.
It's constant trauma, from the DV situation to, the homicide to whatever the case may be. It's people's lives being affected, and you're always in the middle of that trauma one way or another.
Yeah.
One way or another, you're just dealing in trauma constantly.
Yeah.
And it's not just a cop thing. It's, fire and EMS.
Yeah,
it's
first responders
it's
of any kind.
dispatchers. It's all of that stuff.
If you're in the military, even
100%. So it's just that's what you have to be accustomed to, and you have to have ways to focus and work through that trauma, and then you have to have coping mechanisms after to stay mentally fluid.
Yeah.
To make this profession a career.
Yeah. Recently, I just had Sergeant Bays on, and he brought up something about just being in law enforcement, and I asked a question about, like, I said it was a brotherhood, but it's a camaraderie. You know, it's not just men, right? So it can't be just a brotherhood, but that across the board, when you come to first responders and that mutual shared experience, I don't know if I would call it trauma bonding. I don't think that would be the correct terminology I would use with that, but is when you experience things like that, is there really a coming together of first responders that say, you know, I wasn't there today, but I understand what you experienced, and you know,
I do that exists. It's definitely there, and it's always available because it's a family. However, you know, like me, I'm not that person. I privately come to a resolution in my own mind with things.
Yeah.
Like I'm a thinker, always have been. So I can come to a resolution internally with myself and move forward. Yeah. I just worry about it once I leave it. I don't know if that stuff comes back. I don't know if it haunts you at that point. I don't know. But, you know, as I stand here today, I'm not I'm not affected to the point where I would consider leaving this profession.
Yeah, I was going to say ultimately that would be the, and you know, it's interesting to say, you know, I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I will say the key is to come to a consensus in your own mind and your own heart, like you said, and deal with it. And I think putting that to rest and moving on prevents it from piling up.
Yeah, there's a simple thing that I use, and this goes back to understanding the cycle of life. And as a hunter, I get it. You know what I mean? But it's a simple saying for me that life isn't fair. It'll never be fair. You can't explain why things happen at times. They just do. And you can dwell on it forever, or you can move forward. And that's just kind of what I tell myself in my own mind, and move on.
Yeah, the last stage of grieving is acceptance.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so you knew PD, then you went over to the sheriff's department. So you said you were there for Noon PD for 6
years.
6 years. What caused you to want to go over to the Harvey County Sheriff's Department?
Probably a lot of it had to do with my uncle. And then growing up, kind of a country kid, you know, that's where I wanted to be. Yeah. I liked the freedom of the county. Those were my people out there, you know. That's why I did what I did. I left Newton, came over to the sheriff's office. There were, you know, I enjoyed, I got to work with my uncle for like 2 years before he went off to Marion County as the undersheriff. So that was kind of unique. And I think my brother was in the jail at the time. So there were 3 Huntleys working for the sheriff's office. I don't think that's ever happened. So
yeah. Set in family tradition.
I guess so.
Okay, so geographic change.
Yeah,
that's why, you know, not that you didn't like being in Newton, because as a sheriff's officer, that does include Newton, right?
Yes.
But geographic change, where now you're not stuck within city limits, you're stuck within county line.
Yeah,
right?
and Newton, I am so thankful for those 6 years, because it helped prepare me. Like I said, the experience that you can gain there is just, it's great. Just compared to the sheriff's office, especially at that time. We're busy now, but back then, you know, it would take you a while to gain the number of DV cases you've worked, and it's just like anything. You get better at it time and time again. So I'm so thankful for my 6 years with Newton. I worked with a lot of great people. I still call, you know, Jim Daly chief to this day, because he was the chief that hired me, and I got to be around a lot of those old dogs, you know, and understood copping from 30 years ago, as well as progressive stuff that these guys are doing today. So
and so once you went to the sheriff's department, you were a patrol officer. How long because obviously you're captain, right? Now, so how long were you a patrol officer before you wound up doing something different inside of the sheriff's department?
Yeah. So I continued FTO duties and team stuff, moving over to the sheriff's office. So I was still on the team, and I started FTOing for the sheriff's office. Like Sergeant Bays, he was one of my first FTOs that I trained at Harvey County.
Very cool.
And so, man, I don't know. I want to say that it was probably just 10 years before I made corporal. And understand, when I came into the sheriff's office, there was no sergeants, there were no corporals. It was sheriff, undersheriff, 2 detectives, and everybody else were deputies. So Sheriff T. Walton did a lot to create supervisory positions, and so those took time to obtain and fill. But I became a corporal, and I don't remember what year that was, probably close to 2013, and then became sergeant when Chad became sheriff, and then I was promoted to captain 3 years ago.
Okay.
So
What? Just explaining duties, right? Of course, it doesn't matter your rank if you look at it that way, or the structure. When there's some kind of an emergency where all hands are on deck, right?
Right.
But the difference between being a patrol officer and then obviously being a sergeant and supervisory duties and making sure your team is doing the best that they can to ensure their safety and the safety of the public and all that includes. I mean, that's an encyclopedia of itself. But then moving into a captain's position, you're the captain over the patrol,
court, security, as well as civil process.
Okay. So that wears a few different hats.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But be fluid, be adaptable.
Yeah.
And so, I'd spent a lot of time on the team, and I spent 17 years with the emergency response team. And I would probably tell you that 17 years is what prepared me to be successful where I'm at. Doing dynamic tactical call-outs, dangerous situations, you've got to be fluid. You've got to be able to change directions quickly and think outside the box. And when it comes to supervision, I think that's where it's important, and you got to learn how to communicate to people, different types of people. But I think more importantly, what supervision is inspiring and developing people to do the right things, and holding them accountable, but holding yourself accountable, and being that leader for people to follow. So
yeah, because you deal a lot with like policy and procedure.
Yeah, I'll write policy as a captain, with input from my people, and then also reviewing what laws allow, whether it's federal or state. But a lot of it is, I think, more than anything, is ensuring that we're doing what we should be doing in the citizens' expectation of us, and ensuring that we're doing what we should be doing.
Yeah.
And mentoring and developing my frontline supervision to do the same thing for the people below them.
Yeah. Okay. So, leadership position, hiring. You said for 3 years you've been the captain, but before that you were sergeant. So the being responsible for other officers that are incoming and training and learning. What to you, being in that position, what's one of the most rewarding things about that?
I love to see people. I love to see growth. I love to see leadership growth. When somebody kind of figures out the best way to be for other people to see and follow. I love that the most. And then when people get wins and they get success, it's good to see that growth. Failure is necessary. Like, I think in this society, we try all too often to exclude failure, but failure's good. Yeah. How you rebound from failure is what's going to make you sharp. But it's okay to fail, and I tell my guys that it's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes, learn from them, get better. Yeah. You're human.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, interestingly enough, you make the comment that you're human, and one of the reasons why I do pursue having law enforcement officers out here on the program is, and I've said this before, because it's easy for someone who's not in that position to see everybody as the badge, right? And then also you, I truly believe this. I think many people that look at law enforcement, and don't want to say this is the case, but if there's a bad experience that they might have with one officer, it's easy to paint everybody with the same brush. And then because of the world we live in through technology and projection of information, they may never even had that experience with somebody, but they see this experience that maybe they perceive somebody else had, and therefore then prejudge that occupation and all the people in that. So it's a humanization thing. To me, that has got to be a struggle, right?
It's a minefield, man. Like it's really tough. And so when we talked about being private, that's one of the best ways to deal with that. You just don't see it. Listen, when we need to be held accountable, we need to be held accountable. And I think that we're all completely for that. What I see out there is a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of misinformation too. But I think that we have to remember that we're human beings. Humans are prone to error. They're going to happen. And then you throw in a high stress, dynamic, dangerous situation, and what's the chances of being perfect then? It's almost impossible.
No training in the world. No training in the world.
So we got to understand that we're asking humans to do some really, really hard stuff on behalf of us, on behalf of our safety, so on and so forth. Mistakes are going to happen. Yeah. They are. Yeah. They just are, and we need to understand that.
Well, then that comes back to the learning from that, right? So oftentimes, okay, I got a question. Day to day, right? Patrol, you've been doing this for a long time, okay? Speaking of people, right? Like, because you're put in these situations and you sign up to do that, right? And it's all with a hard attitude of wanting to serve and protect. How many times when you make contact, just a percentage, right? How many times when you make contact with somebody in the public, be it for whatever the reason, fill in the blank, right? They were going too fast, going too slow, whatever the case may be, right? Or you get a call and you have to show up. How often in law enforcement do you believe that you are presented with a situation where you're already the bad guy?
It's often. It's not everything. This is the development of my career in 25 years. I used to be when I first started, was just active out there, just, rolling the world, as we say, just looking for crime and fighting it, and man, thinking I'm doing good. And now, my goal is to I want people to walk away with a contact with me, whether it's just, on the street or it's a call for service. I want them to walk away thinking that they were provided service in some way, shape, or form. But there are some times where it doesn't matter what we use in terms of our communication skills or how we approach this, that we're always going to be the enemy. And it can be stigma from their own, just like you said earlier, maybe a contact they had 15 years ago, or maybe it's something they heard from a friend or saw on the TV or whatever the case may be. And sometimes it's just a no-win. It doesn't change how we approach that and how we try to find a resolution to whatever that call may be, but it's a struggle. It's hard sometimes.
So how many years in law enforcement did you say you've been?
25.
25 years. In your opinion, how has, and I think it's because of what you just said that's getting me to want to ask this question, but how has overall, in your opinion, law enforcement and policing changed over the course of time?
Yeah. I think that we can see, and I felt it, and I have to say that I don't know if I could have continued this career if I didn't do it here. And that's a kudos to the public we have here. We have great support. And I can't stress enough of how important that is to us. Because if we were in Los Angeles or we were in Minneapolis, I don't know that I would have continued this career. I would have said it is not worth it. Yeah. Not at all. So in terms of the changes, it's changed drastically, from the drug stuff to the DV stuff to various laws now. The tactics that criminals use have changed. We've seen a huge reduction in property crime, which used to be just rampant. and we don't see that. And what impacts that? There's the alarm systems. There's all kinds of different technology. Yes, that's changed the game. Yeah. So we see those are like some changes for the better. But what I've seen for the worse is driving, aggressive driving. That has changed immensely.
You say that, it's funny that you say that, because I was just having a conversation the other day about that.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
How bad it is now. And so what happens? I mean, again, I'm not a psychologist. I don't understand that, but I think our society has grown impatient because of what technology can do for you. We used to have to go to the library to actually research something, and now it's at the fingertip. So this society's used to just that instant gratification of things. And so they don't have time to wait in traffic. They don't have time to wait for that slow person that's driving. They may be doing the speed limit, but it's not fast enough for them. So we see a lot of that. That's for the worse. The ability to reason, the ability to communicate with people in conflict has changed. Where people are quick to go to blows now. Yeah. So those are things that I would say that we've seen that aren't so good. And then there's several things that we've seen on the positive front. So
yeah.
But again, it goes back to being fluid and being adaptable. You have to do that.
Okay, Captain Huntley, we talked about how policing has changed over the course of time, and we've covered some about, if you didn't have such a community that supported law enforcement so much, or maybe be in a different place, it'd be a struggle. And even how, when you first started out so many years ago, there would be 50 applicants to one job, and maybe there might be 5 applicants to one job type of a thing. If somebody's listening right now and they're asking themselves, a young person, right? Mm-hmm. I'm 21, I'm 25, I'm 30, whatever the case may be, and they're considering law enforcement, or whether law enforcement as a career is something that they want to embark on. They have the heart to serve and protect, and they enjoy the excitement that they might get out of doing the right thing, and I mean, I hate to say, for lack of a better word, catching the bad guy, or whatever type of
right.
Type of thing. What would you say to them if they were listening right now to this podcast and asking, do I want to be in law enforcement? I see a lot of stuff. I don't know if that's what I want to do, but this is what I want to do. Should I do this?
There are very few days that I don't. I just don't regret doing this career. There's so many benefits, especially at this juncture, in this stage of my career at 25 and being 40, or 25 years of service and being 45. Like, I'm 4 years and 260 some odd days away from punching out the final time, and I can retire at the age of 50, and there's nothing else out there that offers that. Yeah. So there's some benefits. There's some good things if you have the right mindset. What I see today and what we try to build with the sheriff's office is just that family culture. And we're going to challenge you every day to be better for our citizens out there, to serve them. And it doesn't matter what's going on with them. We're here to help. We're always a phone call away. But if you want to be challenged to be the best that you can be, I know that sounds like an Army slogan, but this is the career for you. As long as you're willing to do that and get better, improve, and put service at the forefront, and the mission statement of our office at the forefront of what you're doing, it's going to be a great place.
And even more specific, okay? Why would you suggest, if somebody's looking for a place to be in law enforcement, that Harvey County Sheriff's Department is the place to be, or our community is the place to be?
Well, we love homegrown people. I am. But we like people who want to be in this community and make this community better. Harvey County, I believe that we're on the cutting edge of leadership theory and things, how we believe that organizations can be successful in this era. So it's a different mindset from maybe some of the other agencies out there. We really consider everybody who works with us part of our family, and they're treated as such. And you have all the opportunities here from, you're 20 minutes away 15 minutes away from the north end of Wichita. So you have big city policing at times, as well as that rural stuff. So we offer a good balance of that. You like to be proactive and you like to impact crime areas within the county. You have the time to do that. You like community building. We have opportunities for that, between ERT and other specialty divisions, from bikes to training, being instructors, the DUI stuff. We have all that stuff here that people can partake in. So,
yeah, very cool, very cool. Okay, we are getting short on time, and I know, as always, the last question that I ask the guest is just to, speak directly to the hearts and the minds of anybody listening, Captain Huntley.
I have a prepared statement for
Oh,
this.
my goodness.
No,
You can. Yeah, I was going to say, you should get out your piece of paper and be like,
this prepared
I was
statement.
prepared for this. You did not catch me off
I've given
guard.
this some thought because I do watch this. I really enjoy what you do here with between Andy and Chad, what you guys do. I pay attention every week to see what's going on. That's where I get my news. But I think what I have to say is we've covered a lot of things that were important to me, but more importantly for me is I'm just thankful. I'm thankful for people throughout my career in this community that helped raise me, that held me accountable at times and told me to be tougher, be stronger. It has honestly been a pleasure to serve the citizens of Newton, Harvey County, in my 25 years. And I don't just say that just to say something nice. I really am thankful for the opportunities I've had here to serve this community. And all I would ask is that please understand that this job's tough. It's not easy. It's difficult at times. And we talked about the trauma, understand that every first responder has that. Have some grace at times with them, but continue that support because it's important. It's truly important. I would say that that's the fuel that keeps us going. And that's what I'd say. I'd tell everybody. That would be my ask, and I'm very thankful for the 25 years I got to serve them. So
yeah, while you support us, we support you. Absolutely, 100%. Mutual relationship of benefit.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, just want to thank everybody for listening to this episode of HC Talk. As always, I was your host, Lance Gormley, and our special guest on the program was Captain Huntley with the Harvey County Sheriff's Department.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good one.